Hi everybody, how is it going? Today I want to talk about drugs and specifically my experience with drugs in as much as how difficult it was to get off drugs and how I talked to myself to make me come back and to make me quit, and some little experience that I had that changed it all. So for me, I've always, not always, of course, been a kid, but I used to have, well, it's very common in Spain to have, pot, weed, to smoke weed. And in the beginning, it was just like trying it. And at some other point, it was more like purchasing it a lot. And every time that I met with friends, doing it. Right, so this is how I understand it. In the beginning, you meet with your friends and you say, hey, look at this new thing that I brought. Wow, nobody's tried it, so you all try. And it's great. It's different. Basically, it's just very different. Different state of mind, different sensations. You're in another realm. And it was fun, easy stuff to do. And it's not very pricey, especially considering other options for entertainment with a group of people. Also, there's a sense of intimacy that you all do it together and nobody gets to see it. It's kind of secret. So, of course, you try a second time, and the second time is almost just as good, and somebody comes into the group, so it's the first time for them. And this keeps going and going. There's a third time, fourth time, fifth time, 10th time. And when you're about 20 times, it's no longer new. But you keep going out of habit, some other people joining, people like it, and you're not going to just now announce a new kind of excitement, a new kind of activity. So you keep on going, you go to 30 times, 40 times, 50th, and it keeps going, and what ends up happening, it happened to my group, it happened with me, with one of my best friends, and honestly, it happened in a few groups of mine, is that because we engage in this activity so much with and only with our peers, it ends up turning into into the core of the activity that we do. And actually, not doing it feels very different from doing it. Like, you do feel that you're doing something when you're smoking pot with your friends. Because the art of smoking, rolling the joints, or purchasing the weed and looking for a place to be and just talking shit while doing it or playing a game. This is all sort of a process that has the resemblance of an activity. So it feels like you're doing something and that something's fun. What ends up happening is that before the activity is no longer fun and starts feeling harmful and deteriorate everybody's state and feelings, it already has, way before that happens, it already has gotten very deep and turned into a central part of your connection, of how your relationship work. So it turns into part of the relationship dynamics of the group. And that's where it's dangerous. Because every time you meet with your group, every time you go to a party, every time you go to do something fun, traveling, it seems like there should be weed. And it's no longer because you really want it, it's because you just feel like that's what one should do. Because it's become such an intrinsic part of how you relate to a certain kind of people. Of course, you wouldn't do it with your family most of the time, you wouldn't do it in a wedding, you wouldn't do it in class, but you would do it when you're with your friends, or some people that you act with as friends, right? So what is very difficult is to now go to the group and claim that we have to stop and now there's another activity. Because it feels like without doing that, there is no much fun to be had. But that's a lie. Because way before you even had the first joint in your mouth, we already had fun. We had many activities. We played games. We played football. We played a lot of things. We talked shit. We had, I don't know what we had, but we were having fun. Nobody was saying, hey, we don't have fun, we need some pot. No. But after that, that's what it turns into. So one of the best ways, the ways that I know of is just to dislocate the group, and now people don't have to engage in the act. Leave the group, talk with the group, but it's very difficult because it is now, the joined is now a part of the group, a vital part of the group. It is not a part of any of the individuals, and it's not a part of the relationship between one individual and another individual of the group, but it is a part of the structure, of the fabric of the group. And that's what's dangerous. So in a way, if you now reject part, as I did, you have to kind of reject the group most of the time. What I wanted to say is that it's not so much a chemical addiction, in my experience, as it is a social addiction. And that does not mean that you do it to look cool, or that you do it because your friends ask you to do it. It is because you want to be a part of your friend's group, and specifically of the activity. You want to be part of the action, of the game, right? Of the fun. You don't want to be an outsider. And it's not like people are going to reject you and tell you off and not want to talk to you. But there is a difference between being like standing there and joining the activity and enjoying yourself and changing with the activity. That's very different, and it's easy to see. So once you reject weed, you pretty much have to reject the group as a whole. Maybe not the individuals in the group, of course not, but the group as a whole has now a dynamics that is owned by the weed. My opinion, my experience. So, I actually quit pot pretty much radically. I wanted to tell you what happened to me that allowed me to actually get away from that, get away from alcohol too. So what had been happening is that with alcohol and with weed, I had been not having the fun that I used to have, at least in the beginning. So in Spain, we begin very early to do this thing, especially alcohol. So from very early on, there's been a few years when I used to have a lot of fun in village festivals and parties with alcohol, drinking alcohol. But at some point, it stopped happening. I drank the same thing, maybe even more, but the effect was not me having fun, just me being drunk. Same happened with weed, and I could see myself telling myself, hey, before I had weed, it was like, hey, you know what would make this very fun? Weed. And after and during I smoked, the message was completely different. It was like, oh, why did you do it again? And now I have to throw my whole day away because my today's will, shattered. I just don't feel like doing anything. And that's what weed did to me. So it was this happened so many times that I saw myself lying to myself. So at some point I said, no, this makes no sense. But when you're in the moment, on the spot, you still believe, most of the time, you still believe the lies of the weed. What happened to me very quickly, because this is getting long, is that I was in a village festival. Two of my friends were sitting off there, and I walked by and said, hey, can I join you? And said, yeah. And they were having a joint. So it is very different. I was on this side, they were here. It is very different to be inside the joint, inside the smoking situation, or outside, right? So what was happening is that I was sitting with my jeans, and they had some fabric things and buttons that were very painful if you sat on them on a hard ground. So I was having kind of pain in my butt, literally. And what was incredible is that at some point, because I was a bit bored, I thought of joining not only the conversation actively, but the joint, right? And even though I didn't take the joint, I didn't smoke anything, the very moment, I was very aware of this, the very moment that I thought of joining the social and chemical situation, I could see and feel how my butt stopped hurting. It didn't hurt. Like, I could see it, like, just the pain drifted away. And the only thing I did was look at the side and think, what if I joined it? And my brain told me, oh, if you joined it, this is what happens. But it was not a message. My brain made it happen. So I was like, damn it. And it just proved a conclusion that I had reached. And that conclusion was that the feelings that I experience are not created by the drug. They can be intensified or a little bit changed, but the feelings that I have are created by chemicals. And I am the best chemical producer in town. For sure. My brain just completely overthrows almost any drug if he so decides. So what I was just telling myself is that you don't need drugs to feel anything. You can even change your butt pain with this thing. No chemicals required outside of your brain, right? That is the message that I got. And I just read in a book, and this is how I live it, that Salvador Dalí used to be offered drugs, and he said, I never took any drugs because I am drugs. I think this is very normal of Salvador Dalí to say. I didn't get the Spanish quote though. But think about that. Isn't it way better, seriously, not to be high on life? I'm telling you this, chemically, to not take drugs because you are drugs. Isn't that so much cooler? And I'll leave you with that. Thanks for getting through the whole 12 minute piece. Thanks for watching, seriously. I didn't mean to make it this long, but there's a lot of thins that I had to talk about. So I'll see you in the next video tomorrow, and have a nice day.